driving through Kansas has been teaching me a lot about America as a whole. Mostly this country is incredibly massive. It's just absolutely ginormous. And it's mostly empty. I've been staying in Linden, Kansas, which is a pretty massive town. It's got 3 restaurants and 1,000 people. And I say that it's massive, not sarcastically. Like, I don't want you to sneeze at this. I've been happy to drive through a town of 700 because it probably has a big gas station there. And the entire town went to Buzzard Pizza last night for dinner. I was going to go to Buzzard's Pizza myself. And then I walked in, and there was the whole town kind of laid out before me, lower than I was, because it's a basement. You have to walk in and down. And when I walked in, I was a little bit conspicuous because I look different than people here. So everybody sort of looked up like I was some kind of guest speaker. And I decided that this was a little bit too much local flavor. It was actually kind of intimidating. So I just shut the door and I walked back out. I walked back out to the second most favorite restaurant in the town, which is called the Thirsty Pig and serves chicken. And they were lovely there. Everybody has been so friendly in Kansas. Like this morning, today was Sunday, so everything was closed. I mean everything. Like even the cops were not on the roads. There was quite a few of them yesterday, but today, not a hair or hide of them in their cowboy hats. Everyone wears cowboy hats like shoes. In fact, everything was so closed that the local atheists who had been at Buzzard's Pizza yesterday were out hanging around Casey's gas station because that was the only place serving food. I was looking for a bathroom, and by this point I was driving through Peabody, which didn't even have a Casey's gas station. And I figured that, well, if it was Sunday and everything was closed on Sunday, that meant that the only place open would be a church. So I parked next to a church, and I kind of squared the building up a bit to find the back door, and I nipped through that one into the basement. I found a whole bunch of ladies talking. And they were so friendly. They let me use the facilities. They invited me upstairs for their service. And I said, I couldn't possibly go to your service. I'm wearing a tank top and shorts and some beat-up sandals. I'd had the presence of mind to remove my sunglasses, which I was proud of my thinking ahead there. They're like, no, you'll fit right in. Look at what we're wearing. They're wearing silk shirts and dress pants. They're like, you'll fit right in. They ushered me upstairs. They sat next to me in the pew. They gave me a program. And when the pastor asked for prayer requests, 2 or 3 hands jumped up to the ceiling. They said, there's Isabel in the back pew. She's going down to New Mexico, and we should all pray for her safe travels. And they did. And they also offered to pay for my gas and would not be put off until they had handed me cash. And they wanted to take me out for lunch, too, which at first I thought this was an offer to get to know me better as a person, which it was. However, it was also a matter of survival, because like I said, there was nowhere open for 50 miles in any direction. They were all going to have lunch at the Methodist church across the street, because the Methodists were having like a benefit lunch of sloppy joes to support a local charity. So this church, which was a different denomination, were going to finish up their own services and then go over next door and support the Methodists, which I thought was such a lovely, kind thing to do, but I had to get back on the road. People have been lovely everywhere. Like, I stopped at a Starbucks this afternoon, seeing as it was the only Starbucks west of the Mississippi I had come across, and I felt like I should commemorate this moment in space and time. I walked in, I didn't know what I was expecting. It was this exact same menu as I'd see it at Starbucks anywhere, seeing as it's a chain store. You know, so I ordered a cup of black tea, same way I would do at home. What I didn't realize is that although the menu is standardized, what you receive off of the menu actually is not. So I asked for a cup of black tea, and I said I wanted it hot, and they looked at me a little strangely. They were like, okay. And they served me a large cup of southern sweet tea with extra sugar. And as they passed it over, they're like, you know, it really is better with ice. You should have it with ice cubes next time. And they were right, because it was a completely different beverage. So I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah, everything's different around here. The sun rises a different color. It's a lot oranger. There's lizards scuttling across the sidewalk. And the bugs are massive. They're just twice as big as anything I've ever seen before. Which has been a good opener for conversation for the people here. And usually, as soon as I mention the fact that the bugs are larger than I'm used to, they all have stories about it. And it's usually the locusts. They want to tell me about the locusts. Massive creatures. Blue stripes on the legs. I'm like, you had a locust problem this year? Because the crops look pretty good when I'm driving through. Like, it's dry, but the sorghum's coming in nicely, and most of the corn is already harvested. And they're like, no, not this year, not this year. This is way back. I'm like, last year? They're like, not last year. So about the third person, I was like, when? Tell me when. When were all these locusts here? 1841, folks. These people were telling me about the locusts in detail, visual descriptions from the great locust invasion of 1841 I had to learn about in school as if they were there yesterday. It's kind of like those Scottish documentaries read about the blood feud between the Campbells and their neighbors, and they discuss it like it happened an hour ago. That's what these people sound like when they talk about the locusts and the Dust Bowl. And this actually made a lot more sense to me after I'd visited the Osage Historical Society, because a lot of the families that live here now actually were the same families as back then. Nobody moved. And I suppose if you live in such a massive state, where would you go? Everywhere's the same. There's not a lot to do. This is fine for me because, like I said, everything's new to me. I don't mind if I have fried okra for dinner. That's kind of a big night out. But it's a big night out for them too, which is kind of my point. You know how sometimes when you're driving down the road, they've got like these little signs that tells you a local attraction or a place of entertainment? The last one I saw said Big Well, which I thought was kind of funny. But yeah, people are lovely. The weather is hot. It's 106 degrees, which is much cooler noticeably than yesterday, which was 115. I keep asking people, they say this is a little bit hotter than it normally was. They ask me where I'm heading. I say I'm going down to the deserts of New Mexico. They say it might be cooler there. And then we both laugh. But yeah, I'm going to be in Kansas tomorrow, and then the day after that I'm heading down to Colorado, so I'll let you know how it is when I get to the mountains. But mostly what I'm realizing is people are people everywhere, and that's been quite comforting. Like the problems they talk about down at the pig where they serve chicken are the exact same problems they talk about back home. They talk about overtime, they talk about relationships, they talk about other people who talk too much. And that's been comforting because I went on this road trip after I've had a lot of problems in my own life, and what I'm realizing is that they're very ordinary problems. Everybody has the same problems. And you can pick where you want your life to be, but the life part is going to be the same. So, and a lot of times when I'm at home, I'm thinking about, like, I wonder what life is like somewhere else. I wonder if it gets any better or any different. Well, you might see a different kind of sunrise. You might get to choose whether you want to have black tea with milk or southern sweet tea with extra sugar. But the person who's serving it to you is going to be the same kind of person you'd have back home, and the relationship that you have or do not have with the people here is also going to be the same. They might have a different last name, but I'm going to run into the same person. So that's been actually quite comforting for me to learn. Yeah, I'm just really enjoying myself, so definitely give Kansas a thumbs up, and I'll let you know how Colorado is.